Guys, SHM here. Today I wanted to go ahead and give newer bingo players and maybe people who are on the edge of learning bingo another resource and another document that you guys could use in order to help you learn bingo or to get better at bingo or just to really get started playing bingo. I haven't felt this feeling recently, but in the past I didn't want there to be any feelings of bingo elitism or, oh, I can't bingo because I'm not good enough at it. We really do want more players to start playing bingo and get interested in playing and, just enjoy the game as much as we do. So this is going to be a video that's meant for that purpose, to help newer players get into bingo. All right, so the first thing I'm going to go over with you guys today is sort of the rules for bingo. As you know, maybe with any other game, in order to finish bingo, you have to pick a row, column, or diagonal from the bingo card and complete that row, column, or diagonal as fast as possible over the other contestants in the bingo. We're going to get into selecting a row and looking at the card and analyzing bingo cards much later in the video, but right now I'm going to go over the standard rule set for playing Banjo-Tooie Bingo. Bingo starts with either a brand new file, like you can see on my screen right now, or you can use the current Jinjo manipulation file that is currently used for speedruns. If you are looking at the Jinjo manipulation list, this is the sort of Jinjo pattern that we established the Jinjo family goals on. So it has the white Jinjo in Jade Snake Grove inside Mayhem Temple, and it also has the two orange Jinjos inside of Mayhem Temple as well. This is the standardized bingo Jinjo manipulation file. So if you don't have a Jinjo manipulation file, it isn't the end of the world. It does mean that your Jinjo goals will be a little bit tougher comparatively to the other players. So if you don't have this Jinjo manipulation goal, you definitely are at a disadvantage. But you can still bingo without it. It's not necessarily something that you absolutely need. If we go back to the rules, you are allowed to use one of the Cheeto cheats in bingo. It's called Jiggy Wiggy Special. I'll show you how to use that later on in the level. You're allowed to use DCW, or the delayed cutscene warp. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the video. You're not allowed to look at your bingo card until the game begins. That's sort of bingo etiquette with all games. And all of your bingo goals must be accomplished on one file. So you're not allowed to jump in between files 1, 2, and 3. It's all got to be done on one file. Usually this is file 1. If you want to choose a different file, you're more than welcome to, but most people use file 1. Any version of the official game is allowed, including EverDrive, but we obviously recommend using the USA or NTSC version of the N64, although we do have some Xbox runners. Emulators are banned, so it does need to be an official version of the game. Timing begins when you enter your file, and then timing ends depending on when you finish your final goal. Alright, so for some quick bingo basics, before you go too far in your route, once you come out of King Jingling's temple, you need to decide whether you're going to DCW or not, using the delayed cutscene warp. If you are going to DCW, you're going to go straight here into Bottle's house, and you're going to grab the Amazing Gaze goggles. If you're not going to DCW, you're going to end up coming down here, and you're going to do the White House Jinjo House jump over to this ledge here. Pretty simple. Just jump on top of the doorway, get a nice jump flutter, ground pound to get the extra height, and get up here and head into Wooded Hollow. So if you decide you are going to DCW, you're going to go ahead and walk straight through here into Bottle's house, and you're going to talk to one of his kids in order to get the Amazing Gaze goggles. The goggles are useful for the DCW shot, depending on what you're going to be doing in your route. And so even if you don't necessarily know if you're going to DCW or not, grabbing the goggles doesn't waste that much time. All you have to do to grab them, just go and talk to that guy, cancel the text. Once you hear that sound, that means you have them. Jump over goggles here, or Specky rather, and then you'll exit up here into Wooded Hollow. Alright, so let's say you've decided you're going to DCW. There are two parts to DCWing that you must do in a route. And the first one is taking the detonator over into the fuel depot and releasing the saucer box. If you don't do this, you're not going to be able to DCW. And like we've said before, not all routes necessarily need a DCW. But some of the cards, some of the rows that you're going to want to do on the cards will require a DCW. So this is the first step to setting up that DCW. Simply take the detonator into here, walk over to the TNT pile, and then blow it up. Release the saucer box over to the exit. Alright, so the second part of the DCW setup is you have to come into Witchy World and you have to actually free the saucer box that you released in GGM. Hopefully you have the Amazing Gaze goggles at this point if you decided you were going to DCW. And you're going to stand on top of the Dodgem Dome and you're going to look over at the Saucer of Peril sign. And what I like to do with my grenade aids is I like to aim right above this sort of third and fourth light. And I want to aim at the button. So I'm going to shoot an egg. I'm going to zoom out to reduce lag, zoom back in, and it opens up the switch. So now that your DCW is set up, you're probably wondering, well, when am I supposed to use it? Or where should I use it? And there are many factors that can help you decide whether or not it's worth it to DCW. Do you need to do a lot of long goals that are further in the game than in the very beginning? Do you not need a lot of moves or a lot of notes to accomplish those goals, and so you're able to warp there immediately? Do you need to get something in a later level in order to do some other goals earlier in your bingos? Mainly the factor is, do you have to go to Jolly Rogers or not? If you don't have to go to Jolly Rogers, usually it's a really good idea to DCW, because if you don't DCW, you're going to have to fight Klungo 2, and the only way currently into Klungo 2 right now that exists RTA is using Talon Torpedo to blow up the Kazooie Rock in Pine Grove. So if you have to go into JRL, usually people decide not to DCW because they're already going to JRL for Talon Torpedo or for another reason, so they're just going to grab Talon Torpedo and do Klungo 2. But it depends. Sometimes you might have to go to JRL and DCW. That might just be a crappy row. But again, we'll get to row selection towards the later of the video. If your row has to go into JRL, usually it's faster not to DCW. If your route doesn't need to go into JRL, usually it is faster to DCW. Whenever you DCW, you're going to be using the replay menu. This is so that the game is storing Banjo's last location before you use the saucer cutscene to warp to that location. You're almost always going to be warping to a boss, although there are some other places that you can choose to warp instead. I'm going to cover the bosses really quick. If you choose to warp to Terry, it's going to put you outside of Terry's nest at the top of the mountain. Be really careful when walking off, or take a moment before you walk, because the camera does do this weird rotate thing. Terry is a really good spot to DCW too. It's a very common DCW location. Weldar, not as much of a common DCW location nowadays, but still is a very justifiable DCW location if you're looking to get all Cheeto pages in GI, or if you're simply looking to defeat Weldar. Another really good location is Minji Jango. This puts you right at the top of Minji's skull, and you don't even necessarily have to fight Minji. You can just walk out of the skull, which puts you in Cloud Cuckoo Land and gets you past the Klungo 2 point as well. Some people DCW to Hag 1 if they need to do Hag 1 in their row, although usually it's better to DCW to credits. Let's go over the cutscene. DCWing to credits puts you at the end of the Tower of Tragedy game and into the gun chamber, which allows you to activate the top of Cauldron Keep warp, and it allows you to exit Cauldron Keep into Quagmire, skipping the Springy Step shoes and allowing you to get to GI as fast as possible. Credits is also another really great location to DCW too. A couple ones that aren't in the replay menu are Toxic Waste, where you shoot the switch inside of GI, and that will put you inside of the Toxic Waste location in GI. Another place you can DCW to is Pot of Gold. If you are wanting to get into Cloud Cuckoo Land and you need Cheeto pages, not necessarily the fact that you need to fight Minji, you can DCW into the Pot of Gold, and then you don't even have to do Pot of Gold if you don't want. You can just simply walk out of the Pot of Gold and you're in Cloud Cuckoo Land once again. These are some common DCW locations. There are some, albeit very uncommon ones out there, but these are the primary 6 or 7 that you'll be using should you decide to DCW. Now for some essential tricks! Okay guys, so starting out with the bingo, we have our first essential skip coming up. This is the Klungo cutscene skip. Normally if you walk forward through this, past the molehill, Klungo is going to register and he's going to stop you, and it's kind of a lengthy cutscene that we want to avoid altogether. So in order to skip this trick, you're going to be flap flipping into that little alcove there with the broken rocks. I have a different setup for this than most runners, but I simply roll and then jump into the alcove and skip it completely. Okay, so the next important bingo trick that we want you to know is plateau early, rather. So in order to do plateau early, you need to get yourself into this corner. This is sort of like a higher height for banjo versus down here. It's going to be much harder. And you're simply going to flip up, and at the almost height of your jump, you're going to execute the ground pound in order to get on top. So I jump, get a little bit of height, and I might not get this the first try, but there you go. You get on top and you're able to go to plateau. Again, maybe a better angle will help you, but you're trying to go from higher to lower while getting yourself on top. Just work on your timing and you can get this down pretty easy. There we go. And we move on into plateau. Alright, for our next essential bingo trick, we're going to be doing GGM early. So hopefully you've already looked over plateau early and you've gotten up here. In order to do GGM early, you can really clip into this grate on any side you want to, but this is most notably the side that people clip on. So ideally, you're trying to get Banjo's feet in between the grate and the platform. So if you see where his feet currently are right now, this is around the spot where you want to try to clip. And I usually do this by holding forward. So I will do a quick jump, and I hold A here, and then I just tap Z while inching my joystick forward. And would you look at that, I got it first try. Nuts. Alright, so the next big essential bingo trick is Jade Snake Grove early. This is sort of the final culmination of these beginning tricks. You have to know this trick in order to get into the cheat code temple and things that you need later. I take off on the fly pad, and I do this in first person. And I'm going to pause here just so that people can see what I'm doing. So, I line up with this black line against the wall in first person. And I am waiting for this horizontal line to go up above my screen before I press A to flap again. This is sort of like my visual cue. And then I listen to 3 flaps, I point myself down, and then I try to beat bomb through the door. And if it doesn't work, I simply flap up again, line myself up with the door. Once I see that vertical gradient, I can beat bomb right in. It does take a little bit of timing, and it isn't precisely an easy trick, but it is something that you can get down consistently with a visual cue. Alright, so in bingo, we are allowed to come into the code chamber, and we're allowed to use the Jiggy Wiggy special cheat code. So, in order to put in any Jiggy Wiggy code, you have to, any Cheeto code rather, you have to come over here, and the first thing you have to type in is Cheeto. So simply type in Cheeto. Now it's ready for you to accept any code input. So we're going to do Jiggy, Wiggy, and then special. Cancel the text. You hear that sound, that means you put it in correctly. Walk over here onto the code chart and simply press A in order to open up all the world doors. For every bingo, this is the only cheat code that you're allowed to use. Alright, so the next essential bingo trick we're going to cover is doing the Atlantis swim. If you did the Legacy any percent route, or if you ever ran any percent prior to the bit clips being found, you did this in your runs. We are going to swim past the octopus into Atlantis without freezing the octopus. So, there is a specific way to do this, and usually if you get hit, there is a backup, there is a safety that you can do. It's a little bit slower, but you're able to do it and not lose too much time. Right now, we don't have double air. We don't want to grab double air. We're going to try to swim down here without freezing the octopus. The way that I do it is I immediately regain my height in this tunnel. And already, if I stay at the top of the tunnel, it's going to line me up with the octopus's sort of eyebrows. And I'm swimming around him at the top of the eyebrows there into Atlantis. Now, sometimes you can get hit and end up on the other side of him. If you do end up on the other side of him, instead of swimming all the way down there into the electric eels lair, you can swim right here into seaweed and regain your air immediately. But because I didn't get hit, I'm able to swim all the way in here without stopping. Alright, so another pretty much essential bingo trick, you might do this probably once a bingo, is going to be egg barging. So egg barging is simply where you are extending Kazooie's hitbox past where it normally should go in order to pick up collectibles that are behind boxes, behind glass, behind cages, etc., etc. So the way the egg barging works is you are going to shoot an egg, preferably a blue egg, but you can use it with any egg besides grenades and clockworks. Is you're going to shoot an egg, and then immediately after pressing up C, you're going to slam B in order to just extend Kazooie's hitbox just a little bit. And so when you do it correctly, right, that's just shooting an egg, but if you shoot an egg in egg barge, you should be able to grab the collectible, whether it's behind whatever it's behind. Alright, the last essential bingo trick we're going to go over is BreakIn. We're going to do both versions of breaking into GI. These are absolutely essential in order to navigate basically inside of Grunty's Industries, because if you don't do BreakIn, you're going to have a long trek trying to get inside. So we're going to do front door BreakIn first. First thing we got to do is break open the front window. We got to lure this guy over here. And right as he's about to hit us, we're going to poop out an ice egg. We're going to move a little bit away from him. We're going to shoot a clockwork up into the window. We're going to hold R to move our camera behind. And we're going to jump inside before this guy slams us. This is a clockwork warp that puts Banjo at the top of Grunty's Industries here on floor 1. And then you don't have to worry about trying to open up the front door or breaking inside with the train. I'm going to go ahead and go out the back side now and show you backdoor break-in. So backdoor break-in, while it is an easier trick, it also takes longer to set up. And it doesn't necessarily get you to where you would like to be. So simply come around the back of GI. Come to the back of floor 1 here to the emergency exit. And what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to line up Banjo along the left side of this doorway. What you want to be able to do is fit a egg in between the doorway and the door frame. Just like so. Once you have this shot, you want to shoot in a clockwork, and you're going to have the clockwork open the door for you. And then you can simply walk into GI. Alright, so in Bingo, one of the useful tricks that you can choose to do, it isn't necessary, but you can choose to do a gondola DCW instead of just simply shooting the button. What this allows you to do is do your DCW setup at the beginning of your Witchy World route rather than at the end of your Witchy World route. In order to do this trick, you're going to want to release the saucer from the button at the same time that you ride the gondola back. I might not get this first try because it's a little trickier. So I'm going to shoot the grenade and I'm going to time it. And there you go. I press B as soon as I think it's about to hit the button. It is a 5-frame window if I recall correctly. And you have to press B. The saucer box is technically open and set up. And I'm allowed to keep working on the rest of Witchy World. Alright, another useful bingo trick that will sometimes be necessary if you're doing bosses or if you're simply doing HFP jiggies is Chili Willy early. A lot of runners might not know this unless they run 100%. Basically, you need the move Bill Drill, or you don't need Bill Drill actually if you're an expert, but I would highly recommend getting Bill Drill. What you're going to do is you're going to climb up the mountain and you're going to use slope resetting in order to keep Banjo onto this little slope. And the idea is that you're going to use Chili Willy firing down his little ice balls in order to give you the height that you're looking for to get up to his little door without claw climbers. So I'm going to roll, or I'm going to screw it up. Alright, I'm going to try to go for it on the next one. And I fucked it. Timing is really tough on this. But ideally, you're trying to jump out of the shadows into the light. And as soon as he shoots down his ice ball, you're going to hold Z for that bill drill animation. Ideally, he hits you in the middle of the bill drill animation. You get the extra height in order to grip grab up to this surface and get inside of Chili Willy. Just like so. And then you can go ahead and exit. Alright, so one of the more useful tricks in Bingo, this one isn't necessarily essential, but a lot of people do enjoy using this from time to time. This is going to be glide jump without wing whack. Just wing whack is really a move that you don't necessarily need unless you're getting all solo Kazooie moves. However, this jump can be somewhat difficult to nail if you do not have wing whack. The entire point is that you're going to jump onto the mountain as far to the left as possible without sliding down the mountain. And then you're going to get a nice big jump over the side of the mountain. And you're going to wait until the last possible moment where Kazooie starts losing height to hold A again so that she flutters around the side of the mountain and lands onto the glide platform. So I'm going to try to do it right now. I'm also really bad at this jump, so I might not get it first try. So I'm going to jump onto the mountain and jump as far as I can over before pressing A to flutter the rest of the way over. And this puts you right here at the top of Icicle Grotto and onto the glide platform. Alright, so another useful trick that is being used in more and more bingos is floor 4 early. So this is... To navigate around GI, it's largely inaccessible for the most part if you don't have Claw Climber boots. It takes a lot of really good movement and stuff like that. So a lot of people like to venture for floor 4 early because once you get onto floor 4 with Banjo and Kazooie, basically the rest of the level is very accessible. So in order to do floor 4 early, you're going to climb up the elevator shaft from floor 1 once you break in, and you're going to climb all the way up to the 4th floor. This is a frame perfect trick. What you are attempting to do is there is a button that is on the left side of the outside of this wall here. And as you'll notice, you see the crushers are currently working. And every time the crushers works, they create that little bit of vibration. So if you notice, you can see the button through the wall whenever it vibrates. Okay? So the idea is that you're aiming either at the button or at the platform right in front of the button. And you are going to pause the game on the exact frame that it vibrates. I can't believe I got it this fast. And this is what you're hoping to see, is that you're hoping to see a button and it's clear and your reticule is pointed either at the button or at the ground right in front of it. You've got the pause. All you have to do is hold Z as long as you have grenade eggs selected and simply unpause the game. When you unpause the game, you will shoot a grenade egg through on the first frame, and it will open up this door, allowing you to access the rest of GI. Alright, so now that you know all the essential tricks and all the useful optional tricks, you're probably wondering, where do I start doing bingos? What do I need to know baseline? The bottom line is that the first thing you need to know is the levels in general. You need to have played the game, you need to have explored all the rooms, you need to see where everything is located, because it starts with the navigation of the levels. There are several levels like GI, JRL, Cloud Cuckoo Land that have a lot of entrances, a lot of exits, and a lot of secret rooms that aren't even necessarily shown in 100%. So, bottom line, you just have to play the game, and you have to look at where things are. There are a lot of collectibles that are currently bingo goals on our cards and in this patch. So, there are a ton of things that you need to know about. I mean, first and foremost, you got to know where the jiggies are. You got to know where all the warp pads are. There's usually 5 per level. Some of them have Mumbo warp pads. Some of them have Wumbo warp pads. You need to know where all those are. You need to know where all the notes are. You need notes to get moves. You need to know where the note nests are. And you need to know where the treble clefs are in relation to the note nests. And how many of those you're going to need to grab for your moves. You need to know where the Jinjos are. And not only where the Jinjos are, but where all the Jinjos of a certain family are. Within your manipulation file. Or if you're unmanipulated, you need to figure out what manip file you have so that you can figure out where your Jinjo families are. In addition to Jinjos, you got to know where Minjos are. There are Minjo goals now where we kill Minjos, Minjos are not ever seen really in 100%, so there's another collectible you got to get down. You got to know where the Globos are. There's 2 in every level. There's 1 in Iowa Hags. You got to know where the moves are. Not only do you got to know where the moves are, you got to know how much each move costs. You got to know where all the honeycombs are, all the empty honeycombs. There are 3 in every level, besides Iowa Hags, where there is 1. You got to know where all the Cheeto pages are. There's 3 in every level, except Spiral Mountain, where there's 1. You got to know where the train station switches are. There are currently 6 of them. Well, there are only going to be 6 of them. There's never going to be more. There are beehives. There are mumbo pads. And there are a ton of miscellaneous collectibles as well, like burgers, fries, batteries, beans, etc. The good news is that all of those resource locations are in my bingo cheat sheet, which is pinned in the bingo channel in the Banjo-Kazooie Discord. So all that stuff just requires a simple check, or even using the cheat sheet while you're doing the bingo. I and many other people continuously use the cheat sheet or the Google Doc cheat sheet while we're bingoing, just so that we don't have to constantly think about everything else while we're trying to route out a bingo route. So it's nice to look at in case you forget where things are, or in case you just need a refresher on where those collectibles might be. Alright, so now probably the most important part of learning how to do bingo is actually looking at the bingo card and deciding to choose a row. Almost every time you do a bingo, it's just going to be a normal bingo card. That's the most balanced of the 3 patches that there currently are. So, again, there are several different choices that you're going to be able to make when you look at the card, and you have to pick at least one and try to accomplish it. So, there are 5 rows, there are 5 columns, and there are 2 diagonals. So you have a total of 12 choices to choose from, and it's all going to come down to what are you most comfortable with, what looks the best, what has the most synergy, things like that. But I'm going to break it down into a couple things. So the first thing you want to look at is, where are all of your short goals? Okay, so things that are going to take you very, very little time to accomplish. So here I'm looking at things like 3 Jiggies in MT, all Warpads in CCL, all Warpads in Witchy World, 4 Jiggies in MT, it's only 1 more than this one, and learning Breagle Bash. Those are the 5 that I see that are like really, really, really simple. Now, of course, they're not all in the same row. They're never going to be, but this might be a way of you saying, hey, those are the easiest ones. Which one of these easiest 1 rows can I pick? The other thing you can do is the opposite. You can look at what are going to be the hardest goals to look at and the things you absolutely don't want to do. So that would be things like all collectibles in Cloud Cuckoo Land, where you have to do 3 mini games alone, including Canary Mary for all Cheetah pages in CCL. You might not like all red Jinjos. They are not in really good locations, so you might say no to that one. Learning all 4 solo Kazooie moves. That requires 660 notes and actually taking the time to go out of your way and grab those 4 moves. You might not like Icicle Grotto CP with Shack Pack. That's 640 notes, and you have to go and get it with solo Banjo, which takes a while. Opening the door to Weldar also takes a while. So you just look at these, and now you've got some choices that you don't really like. 13 Jiggies between MT and GGM also might be a while. 8 purple Jinjos. So now you're looking at, well, which one of my rows has the least red goals or the most green goals that I would actually not have a problem choosing. So, in looking at this, already row 5, it doesn't necessarily have any bad goals unless you mark 13 Jiggies as something that might be too long. But that might be the one row that you look at and you're like, well, I didn't mark any of those goals as red, so I might do that. Let's take a look at another card. Sometimes you can get away with choosing a card that has some red goals in it if there is some synergy. So things already that I'm looking at here. Worker Jiggy is a long goal, but there are a ton of beehives in GI that you can kill as the washing machine. Again, Jinjos with Jinjos. You might see some synergy within some goals here and there. But the most important thing is, what are you comfortable with doing? What are goals that you know you're able to do and that you're comfortable with knowing? Because sometimes that can be more comfortable than, I don't necessarily know this trick. I don't necessarily know where all the batteries are off the top of my head. I might have to spend a little bit more time routing, things like that. Even if you end up picking a longer row, the whole point of us is trying to get you guys to finish bingos and to get better at bingos. Because the thing that I've always said is the only way to get better at doing bingo is actually doing bingos. If you sit there and you're like, it's too much information to learn, I'm never going to get it down, then you're never going to get better and you're never going to improve. But if you take the time, do a bingo, join a bingo, ask questions during the bingo, because all of us who have been bingoing for a while, we just want more players. We want more people to be involved and more people to play. And we love answering questions, and we love getting people, the information that they need in order to succeed and play more bingo and get better at bingo. Exodus, who's a bingoer in our community, he runs OOT and he does a bunch of stuff with OOT. Has never speedran the Banjo-Tooie games at all, and has never done any category, but he just started doing bingo randomly, and he's sort of like our success story, if you will, because he just kept doing bingos until he was, as good, if not better than the rest of us who have been playing bingo for a long time. So, again, when you look at that card, you want to look at what are your doable goals, what are your short goals, what are your long goals, and what are your goals that have synergy in them. And again, as you play more and more and you're able to start routing on the fly, you're going to be able to say, oh my gosh, this pairs up with this really, really well. I see the synergy. Maybe it's going to be the fastest. This is a relatively new patch, so anybody who is willing to jump in and learn right now is really going to be on sort of an equal playing field with the rest of the people who are currently trying to figure out what is strong on this patch and figure out, what goals have the good synergy and what goals are you going to be able to get away with winning the bingo. And so give it a shot, guys. I hope this video finds you well, and I hope that it serves as another tool that you can use in order to learn how to do bingo and get better at Banjo-Tooie Bingo. So we'll see you next time, and get to bingoing, folks.